I will be discussing the first test, and then we will move on to lesson 12, composite schwa. On Friday, February 11, we will have a test on composite schwa. That's test number 2. On Friday, February 18, we will discuss test number 2 and then move on to lesson 13 entitled Makif, binder or binding. On Friday, February 25, we will look at test number 3, Makif, binder or binding. On Friday, March 4, we will discuss test 3. Then we will move on to lesson 14, Dagesh Lene. On Friday, March 11, we will have a test on Dagesh Lene. Then on the following Friday, March 18, we will discuss that test, and then we will move on to lesson 15, Dagesh Forte, and lesson 16, Mapik. On Friday, March 25, we will have test 5 on Dagesh Forte and Mapik. And on Friday, March 29, we will discuss test 5, and then we will review lessons 11 to 16 in preparation for the final exam. On Friday, April 8, the final exam will be based on lessons 11 to 16. Now let us move on into the Hebrew. So lesson 11 is the first lesson in our new trimester, in our new year, entitled Simple Schwa. The general objectives for this lesson are: 1, to examine the shape of the simple schwa. 2, to examine where to write the simple schwa. 3, to examine the sound of the simple schwa. 4, to examine where to write the simple schwa in relation to a consonant when writing a Hebrew word with the corresponding English letters. Over here in number 2, to examine where to write the simple schwa, is referring to where to write the simple schwa in the Hebrew language itself, not in the English letters that correspond to the Hebrew language. We will look at this shortly. Number 5, to examine when the simple schwa may be pronounced. Number 6, to examine when the simple schwa should not be pronounced. 7, to examine how to write the Hebrew word in the corresponding English letters when the simple schwa should not be pronounced. 8, to examine other rules governing when the simple schwa may be pronounced and when it should not be pronounced. In the specific objectives, number 1, at the end of this lesson, the students will have identified the shape or the form of the simple schwa. 2, at the end of this lesson, the students will have identified the sound of the simple schwa. 3, at the end of this lesson, the students will have identified where to write the simple schwa in relation to the consonant in the Hebrew language. Number 4, at the end of this lesson, the students will have analyzed 5 rules governing when the simple schwa should be pronounced and when it should not be pronounced. 5, at the end of this lesson, the students will have identified how to write a Hebrew word in its corresponding English letters when the simple schwa should not be pronounced. Okay, I'm going to be moving the floating controls that I have on my screen so I can see the whole screen here. If a consonant in a word does not have a vowel, a schwa represented by one dot over another dot, and it looks like our English colon, one dot over another dot, is placed under this consonant. I will read that again. If a consonant in a word does not have a vowel, a schwa represented by one dot over another dot, one dot over another dot, is placed under this consonant. Let us look at some examples. Here is the word shelosha, which means three. And these are the consonants, the letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Remember that the letters of the Hebrew alphabet do not have vowels like the English alphabet has. So when I refer to the letters of the Hebrew alphabet, I'm not referring to vowels, but I'm referring to consonants. So the consonants are the letter shin, which corresponds to our SH, the letter lameth, which corresponds to our L, the letter shin again, corresponding to our SH, and the letter he, corresponding to our letter H. Those are the four consonants that we have in this word. Now, shin at the beginning of this word does not have any vowel. The simple schwa here is not a vowel. At best, it may be called half of a vowel, but it is not a complete vowel. And it is used whenever a letter in the Hebrew alphabet does not have a vowel underneath it. So since shin, our SH, does not have a vowel, the simple schwa, one dot above the other, is placed under it. And it is indicated in the English that it is not a vowel by not writing it on the line, but writing it above the line. The simple schwa here is pronounced like a short E in the word because. So it functions like a vowel, but it is not actually a vowel. At best, it is half of a vowel. So you have this written up here to show it's not a vowel like these others, O and A. So E is written up here to show it is not a vowel. Then here is our O, a long O. This is the holem. It and the dot over the right-hand side of the letter shin join together and form just one dot. So it's actually two dots that are joined together to make one dot. And that is our O, shalo. Then you have SH. Then you have the vowel kames, which is our long A. So you have shalosha, and you have he, our H, which completes the word. So you have shalosha. So notice if a consonant does not have a vowel, then a schwa may be placed underneath it. Here is another example. The word shenayim, shenayim, which means two. Notice that shin does not have a vowel underneath it, like these others do. You have the vowel pathak, which is a, and you have the vowel short hirik, but there is no vowel under shin. If a consonant in a word, if a letter in a word does not have a vowel, a schwa is placed under that letter. A schwa is placed under that letter. Shenayim, shenayim. Another word is keli, keli. Notice that there is a vowel here on the lameth. It's a long hirik, a long I sound. There is no vowel under this letter. This letter is kaf. It has no vowel. And so if a letter in a word does not have a vowel, a shiwa is placed under it. So we have the simple shiwa placed under kaf. Keli. Keli means vessel, utensil, or instrument. Another example is the word layala. Notice that the yoth in the middle of this word does not have a vowel underneath it. And so we put the simple shiwa under it. If a consonant or a letter in a word does not have a vowel, a shiwa is placed under this consonant or letter. So this is why the simple shiwa is placed under the consonant yod or yoth. Now a shiwa is a quick vowel-like sound. It is pronounced quickly and it sounds like a vowel, but it is strictly speaking not a vowel. The quick vowel-like sound is like the eh in the English word because, or like the eh in the French word au revoir, goodbye. Since the shiwa is not a vowel, the eh is written near to the top, near to the top, near to the top, near to the top, to the right of the consonant, like she, ke, and it is not written on the line as a vowel is written. Notice always that a shiwa is vocal, that is, to be pronounced when it begins a syllable, both at the beginning of a word, as we have in Shelusha. I have pronounced the simple shiwa, Shelusha. Here's another example, Shenayim. I have again pronounced the simple shiwa, or Keli. I have pronounced the simple shiwa. They are at the beginning of a word and also in the middle of a word, like layala. I have pronounced the shiwa. So you pronounce the shiwa when it begins a syllable, at the beginning of a word, and in the middle of a word. You pronounce the shiwa when it begins a syllable, both at the beginning of a word and in the middle of a word. Okay, let me try and get this back. Okay, now let me just remove it so I can see the top part. Okay, continuing to look at when a shiwa is pronounced after a long vowel. The shiwa is vocal, that is, it is to be pronounced. For example, you have the word shofarim. Notice the simple shiwa under the fe. And notice that before the fe, there is a long O sound. There is a long holem, indicated by our English O and with a horizontal line showing it is a long O sound. After this long vowel, you may pronounce the shiwa. So it is sho, fe, reem. Sho, fe, reem. Sho, fe, reem. Another example is shomerim. Shomerim, this is a different word. This is ram's horns. This word here is keeping or watching. Notice the long vowel here, the long O sound. And there is the simple shiwa under the mem, that is our English M. Shomerim. And so you pronounce this simple shiwa because before it, immediately before it, is a long vowel. So after a long vowel, the shiwa is vocal, that is, it is to be pronounced. Shofarim, shomerim. When two shawas occur together in the middle of a word, the first shawa closes the one syllable, which is this one here, yish. This is a closed syllable. Remember last term we looked at open syllables and closed syllables.
Yes, sir.
And we found that the closed syllable consists of a consonant followed by a vowel and followed by another consonant. So this is a closed syllable. And when you have the shawa under the last consonant of a closed syllable, it will not be pronounced. It is silent. Okay, so when two shawas, here are two shawas, come together in the middle of a word, the first shawa closes the one syllable and is therefore silent, that is, it is not to be pronounced, while the second shawa begins the next syllable, me, and is therefore vocal, that is to be pronounced. So you have yish merim, yish meru. And notice in writing it in English, I don't, yes.
Sorry to interrupt. And Brother Israel is also in the class as well.
What you said about the internet?
No, I'm saying Brother Israel is also in this class as well for the year 2.
Is he there now?
Yes, sir.
All right. Who else is there?
No, just me and Brother Israel, sir.
Okay. Let me just stop and make a note of that. All right, Hebrew language year 2. What about Danielle Grant?
I don't know what she's up to, sir. I haven't heard from her from the new school year.
All right, so Israel is here, is in the class, Israel.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let me just mark you down as being present. Golding, Israel. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. So notice you have two simple shawas coming together in the middle of this word. And when you have that, the first simple shawa is not to be pronounced, but the second one is to be pronounced. All right, so that is a rule to remember. Yish meru. They will keep, they will watch. All right, let me go over that. I think I skipped something. Let me just look up here. I did skip a page. Let me just see what this was. All right, that was the second page. I skipped the second page. All right, let me look at this page, which I didn't realize I'd overlooked. A shawa is silent, that is, it is not to be pronounced when it ends or closes a syllable in the middle of a word. Remember that a shawa is not a vowel. Therefore, she or fe or le is not a new syllable, but the ending of the first syllable. And I'm referring to these words here. I'll soon come to them. Notice that when a shawa is not to be pronounced, it is not written in the English. For example, it is mishpat, not mishipat. Okay, let me just look at these examples. Here you have mishpat. And notice at the end of the first syllable, which is a closed syllable, there is a simple shawa, but it is not pronounced, because the rule is a shiwa is silent when it ends or closes a syllable in the middle of a word. Okay, here's the middle of the word. A shiwa is silent when it ends or closes a syllable in the middle of a word. So here are examples. Mishpat, meaning decision, judgment, right. Mithbar, wilderness. Notice there is a simple shiwa, but it is not pronounced because it comes at the end of a closed syllable in the middle of a word. Malak, messenger or angel. Notice the simple shiwa here is not pronounced. It comes at the end of a closed syllable in the middle of a word. Minka, gift offering, grain offering. Notice this simple shiwa is not pronounced. Mishpaka. Notice I don't pronounce the simple shiwa here. Family, clan. Migrash, pasture land. I don't pronounce the simple shiwa. Mamlaka. I don't pronounce the simple shiwa. Kingdom. Mitzwa, commandment. I haven't pronounced the simple shiwa. Almana. I don't pronounce the simple shiwa here. Widow. Elyon. I haven't pronounced the simple shiwa. The upper, the highest. Notice also that when shiwa comes after a short vowel, whether short kirik or hirik, or pathak or segol, the shiwa is silent. All of these are short vowels. Short hirik, pathak, which is a short a. Short hirik is a short I sound, e. Pathak again, segol. Notice that right afterwards, if you have a simple shiwa, it will not be pronounced, because when it comes after a short vowel, it is not to be pronounced. So when it comes at the end of a closed vowel in the middle of a word, it is not to be pronounced. When it is immediately preceded by a short vowel, the simple shiwa is not to be pronounced.
So if the shiwa, no, what is the first dot called at the top one? Like this cut about judgment and right.
Yeah.
What you say the one that is again?
All right. If you have the simple shiwa, trying to get the pointer visible. If you have the simple shiwa coming after a short vowel, which is, this is a short vowel, a, the short I, a. It is, the simple shiwa is not to be pronounced. So in each of these examples, you have the simple shiwa coming right after a short vowel. The short vowel hirik or kirik, the short vowel pathak, the short vowel hirik, the short vowel hirik, the short vowel hirik, the short vowel pathak, a, the short vowel hirik, pathak, a, and the short vowel segol. So the rule is, when it comes after a short vowel, these two dots, called the simple shiwa, are not to be pronounced. They are to be silent. On the other hand, in the first page, when I looked at these examples, when you have simple shiwa beginning a syllable at the beginning of a word, like you have shelosha, or in the middle of a word like layala, then you pronounce it. Okay, so when it begins a syllable, either at the beginning of a word or in the middle of a word, you are to pronounce the simple shiwa. Okay, but on the other hand, On the other hand, oh, that's what happened to me. But on the other hand, when you have the simple schwa coming at the end of a closed syllable, or followed by or preceded by a short vowel, the simple schwa is not to be pronounced. However, when the vowel is long,
So sorry, only if it is followed by a short vowel, it should not be pronounced. But if it's not followed by the short vowel, it is to be pronounced. So if the short vowel is not before it, it is to be pronounced. But if the short vowel is in front of it, it should not be pronounced.
that is right. That is right. And on this page, if it comes right after a long vowel, then it is to be pronounced. So on the first page of this PowerPoint presentation, we saw that if it comes at the beginning of a word and it begins the syllable of that word, and it also begins the syllable in the middle of a word, then you should pronounce the simple schwa. However, on this page, if it comes at the end of a closed vowel consisting of a consonant, vowel, and consonant, then it is not to be pronounced. And also, if it comes immediately after a short vowel, it is not to be pronounced. And on this page, if it comes after a long vowel, like the long vowel O in shofarim, or the long vowel in shomarim, the long O, then you pronounce the simple schwa. And this one here, if two schwas come together in the middle of a word, the first schwa is not to be pronounced, but the second schwa is to be pronounced. So you have yish meru, not yishe meru, but yish meru. They will keep, they will watch. Okay, now what I want you to do is to study this lesson on the simple schwa. I will be sending you this PowerPoint later on this afternoon. Study it, and if you have any questions about it, you can email me to let me know.
Yes, sir.
And next week, God permitting, you will have test number 1 on lesson number 11, the simple schwa. Or do you have any further questions on the simple schwa?
No, sir.
All right. Okay, then. Okay, I will see you, Lord willing, next week then.
Okay, sir.